Hey everybody, it's Dewey in Nashville again. I welcome you back to the garden. And today's episode is going to be on composting. So how do you compost? What are ways to do it? What can you compost? So you can do compost, you can make your own compost fairly easily as long as you have organic material to compost. The easiest method for most homeowners to get compost is through grass clippings. I've only got about a half an acre, and it still gives me over 100 gallons of grass clippings about every week and a half to 2 weeks when I mow my yard. You just need either a lawnmower with a bagging attachment, or you can do the same thing if you just got a regular side discharge lawnmower by raking it up, but that's a little bit more work. I've got one that'll put it in the bag. It still mulches some into the ground, so your grass still gets fertilized by its own clippings, but the excess goes into the bag. So I take the bag, dump it into a wheelbarrow as I'm going around the yard, and then bring the wheelbarrow back here, put it in my compost bin. And I'll usually fill this up to about right here with grass clippings. It's a 55-gallon drum. My co-op sells them. You can get them on Craigslist. I fill mine up to about here, and then I'll usually put some manure in there, some cow manure, just for some extra fertilization, because the cow manure will break down a lot easier when it's in grass clippings, because grass clippings break down at a much higher temperature than your average compost. If you put wood chips and your, tree clippings and some of your kitchen scraps in there, it takes a long time for that stuff to compost because it's big chunks. Grass clippings being small, stringy, and already cut up, they go in here and they're coming out in about 2 weeks. I mean, that's max. But a week and a half are probably ready to come out. I'll let them simmer in there for about 2 weeks, and it'll cook down from, once I put everything in, I'll get it up to about here, and then it'll cook down to about right here. I'll put in 50 gallons into here, and I'll get 15 out. So that tells you how much it cooks down and composts down. So, so I put the grass clippings in, I put the manure in, and then I've got a little fire pit in the back where I burn some, yard waste, some tree clippings, anything that I, can. We burn some cardboard from inside, just, it gives extra heat and it makes a quick fire starter. So I'll take that fire pit and dump the ash into a bucket every other time. Once I'll dump it into the trash, the other I'll dump it into the bucket, and then put that in here, and that's a good source of potassium, I think. So pot ash is ash waste. Wood ash. So put that in here, and it makes it a fairly balanced fertilizer. So I've got 2 of these. I'll fill 1.5 up each time I mow, and that gives me about 15 gallons of compost. Put those in the buckets, and then so that's pretty much how I do my compost. You can put it in a pile, but it'll take a lot longer to compost down. Reaganite71, check out his channel. He's got a good drunken compost method to pile compost grass clippings, and I recommend that because I tried it and it worked fairly well for me. I just didn't have enough starter compost to get it done at the time, and that's when I did these. Now this setup here, I'll put a link to the YouTube video that I found these tumblers, the tumbler design on. One caveat I have to it: if you're going to make a compost tumbler out of a 55-gallon barrel, add some reinforcement on the sides, because the barrel is made to be supported by the base, and then gravity on the sides, that's what these ribs are here for, support the weight of the barrel downwards. It's not meant to have a bar go through and to be held by this thin plastic on the outside. So I put a 1x6, cut about an 18-inch piece on the outside. I've got an 18-inch piece on the inside of the barrel. Screw them together, and then the bar goes through that, and I got one of those on each side. So in this, as you can see, it composts down pretty well, and spins, and I do that about once or twice a day. Spin it twice. I may open it up just to kind of let some extra oxygen in. I've also got holes drilled all around it to let the oxygen in on the into the compost mix, keep everything cooking nice and good. So I've got another means of composting in the back, and I'll go and we'll go and check that out. That's my worm composting bed. So come on, we'll go and check that out. So here's my worm composting setup. As you can see, it basically consists of a 40-gallon drum. This is a horse feeder you can get at Tractor Supply, most any co-op. I actually got this one on discount because the inside was a little bit white rusted out, and that's not a really good way to have the interior of a watering can or a food trough. So I got it for a discount, so you can always find deals. You can probably find some of these on Craigslist for 30, 40 bucks. Pretty cheap, and that's a lot cheaper than you're going to find a worm farm or worm factory, any of that kind of stuff. Can't have it inside. That's the downside of it. But it makes a great worm composting bin. I've got it covered up with a piece of plywood, and then if you look down here, I got some holes punched into the bottom. It's at an angle, so it slopes downward. And I've got some holes punched in the bottom down here that are for drainage, and I've got a bucket collecting it, and that's basically concentrated worm tea. The worms eat food scraps, eat organic matter, they poop, they pee, and then that creates worm castings. The worm poop is called worm castings, and the worm castings make great fertilizer. As it rains, this is just too thin, just a little smaller, so it's got a small gap on the side. As it rains, we got a good rain here a day ago, that's why that bucket is so full. As it rains, it'll come down the side of this board into the composter, and then drains out, and that basically moves some of that worm castings and creates some worm tea with rainwater. So it's a great little setup. I'm going to bring you in, kind of show you what goes on in here. So if you have a weak stomach, you probably want to turn away right now for the next few minutes. But come on in, we'll come in a little bit closer, and you can see the worm composter in action. Alright, as you can see, there's a lot of black muck right now. I usually have a layer of grass clippings on top to soak up extra moisture and that kind of stuff. This here is a cucumber I kind of threw in there the other day. It was a pickling cucumber. I've got tons of seed already, so I just gave that as a present to the worms. But down in here a little bit, see if we can dig down and find some of them. There's a lot of little worms in there. Probably not happy it's so wet right now. I've got some extra grass clippings that I can throw in from the last time I mowed, and I also need to give them a little bit more food. But basically any type of organic material that comes from your house, food, watermelon rinds, cantaloupe rinds, extra sour grapes that you have at the bottom of the container, any fruit, vegetable, lettuce, broccoli stuff I bring back here, they'll eat it. And if they don't eat it at first, it'll decompose a little bit. Then they'll eat what kind of decomposes, and they swim around and poop and all that kind of good stuff. So, so yeah, I mean they're all throughout this mixture. It looks really nasty, and it is really nasty. That's why I'm not putting my hands in there. They especially love potatoes, zucchini. They do love cucumbers, although they haven't really hit this one in there. I don't think it's soft enough yet for them. So you can make your worms happy with the stuff that doesn't make you happy. Think of it that way. So that's how I do compost around my house. I'll bring you over to the side here and give you another aspect. This is something else you can do. This is what I was doing before I started with the compost tumblers. You can go to any furniture store, basically. Furniture stores, flooring stores, and get pallets. Make sure they're 5 of the same size, and hopefully they're square. But you get any 5 pallets that are the same size, same company. Put 1 on the ground, put 4 up as walls, and rope them together, and it'll create a compost bin for you if you wanted to do it that way. That was a little more cumbersome than I liked. So you can do that though, or you can just throw it on the ground. There's lots of ways to do compost, but I encourage you, compost. Find a way to do it. There's lots of free ways to get compost. I'm sure your neighbors wouldn't mind you raking up grass clippings. I mean, get some compost going. There's no need to go down to the store and buy it. It's free, provided by God for everybody. So I encourage you to do that. I'll be back later this week or next week with a garden update. Lots of things going on. I've made a new strawberry bed. I've moved things around, had things die on me, had things get blown over in the storm. I've had a total lettuce failure, but we'll get to that in the next episode, so stay tuned. In the meantime, this is Dewey in Nashville reminding you that you plant the seed, but God provides the harvest.